proposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised.
Billions of people just living out their lives, oblivious. Choice is an illusion created between those with power and those without.
I drink your milkshake. I drink it up.
Thank you, John Larson. I receive your kind words on behalf of all of our courageous members of the House of Representatives who want the best for the American people. And what we can do that is best for them in the next 24 hours is to pass affordable, accessible health care for all Americans. The best for all Americans is to have 32 million more people to have health insurance in our country. The best for...
Piece of stinking filth.
Shh, sitting in shop. This is AJ of the InfoWars. Listen to the Shaliak. This is Alex Jones of InfoWars. Listen to Shaliak on the Cold Reality News and Report.
This is the coolest thing I have ever seen.
Well, hello there.
Cold Reality Radio starts now. Welcome to Cold Reality Radio here on the UCY.TV Broadcasting Network. This week on the program, more push for war, the 12th anniversary of 9/11, and more deception to go along with it. Dianne Feinstein's attack on people that are not real journalists. They can't just create a blog and talk about their feelings. This isn't America. We've got insanity across the board. The push for war is still on. The need to kill, even in the face of diplomacy by Vladimir Putin. The push for war continues. The need, the option to kill. Many things and more on Cold Reality Radio today. With me, your host, Shaliak. That's right. So buckle up, buckle in. We've got a show that's going to inform, and endanger. There we go. All right. So as I said, I am Shaliak. I am the host of this here show. And I hope my mic isn't too hot there. Anyway, welcome. Chat rumors at ucy.tv/CRR for Cold Reality Radio. How's it sound out there? Let me get a sound check. How did everything sound? All right. So, and for you sports fans, it's week 2 of the NFL season. And, the distraction continues. But, it's not all that bad. It's not all that bad, but Pat Tillman was killed because he knew too much about what was going over in the Afghani war theater, and possibly knew some more things, like how we're all being deceived by this war on terror. And of course, he could not return with that information. He could not get back here with that information, because it would have really caused a problem for the destruction of America under the guise of the war on terror, the war on drugs, the war on journalists, the war on reality, basically. Bradley Manning just driving the other day thinking this guy, other than the fact that he wants to, mess with his junk and turn it into lady business instead of dude business. Other than that, which kind of is just bizarre in the fact, like, dude, you already got issues going on. Why delve into reality like this? And this week. Elaborate, Hector, on that. Send me a link. So he, 35 years in prison, he is just an example and a deterrent from anyone else who wants to speak out. And of course, 9/11, 12 years later. 12 years later, 9/11. And very interesting, developments this week. I'm going to run over a couple things that are just absolutely absurd about that day. And when it's put in this particular way, you can really kind of see how ridiculous the official story is. I don't know if you've ever had a conversation or argument with someone. I'm sure you have. And you're arguing with them, and then they're like, no. And then you really hit them with some, real clarity, a couple big words that they never heard before. And they're like, well, you know what? When you put it that way, since you put it that way, I kind of agree with that. Right? Well, it's been done by any number of people, and I'm going to start the darn thing here by reading off some of that. I'm going to hit some of the big topics first. What could be bigger than 9/11? In the sense that everything that's been done after 9/11 has been done because of 9/11. The Patriot Act, the National Defense Authorization Act, Iraq, Afghanistan, Iraq. And of course, the Project for a New American Century, written up by the neocons, and as Carl Bernstein said, the Jewish neocons in the Bush administration, wanting to redesign the world. And totally outraged he was, Carl Bernstein. If you don't remember that name, he was associated, a journalist, Woodward and Bernstein. Bob Woodward's still writing books today. I'm not quite sure about Carl Bernstein, but I guess he kind of chose the right platform to say Jewish neocons on the Morning Joe. On the Morning Joe. With Zbigniew, Zbig, we call him. Zbig for Brzezinski. Zbigniew. His daughter is on there. She is a journalist on there. And it's funny how when you look through all these different people that are on the television, they're tied to someone. One of these days I'm going to do a show on, who this person is and then who they're married to. And then you find out that they've got ties to the White House. They've got ties to all these think tanks. Most likely a CFR member. All right, let me see if I can prop this bad boy up here. This seemed like to be a pretty big little clip here. So I'm going to play a little bit of this for one of our chat roomers because I value our chatters, and when they put something in there, they post a video when it's all about full spectrum participation here, other than, the full spectrum domination that you get with the NSA and living in America and pretty much anywhere in the world. Let's take a look at this and see what this is all about. Let's see what this is all about, man.
Interesting. I think this is a telltale sign.
Hold it.
Alrighty then. This is interesting. I think this is a telltale sign, which is going to be obvious in the future when the whole economic system collapses. But it's nice to see little telltale signs that kind of reassure you that, hey, I was right in my thinking that may be a possibility. Bank of America is one of 3 companies to be dropped from the Dow Jones. 15,000 Dow Jones stock market right now. Great, up, down, but it's generally up, boy, that market's great. Why would Bank of America be dropping out? Not that Bank of America wants to pull itself out, it is being dumped out. Dow Jones is dumping out Bank of America. Now, over the last, let me see what this little chart says, a year? Take a little peek, shall we? September of 2012 to August. So September, we're in September. So this is at the very end of August. We're in September. 1 year. Bank of America started off September of 2012 between around $6 and $7 per share. As of today, right now, this chart, I pulled it earlier today, it's a little over $14, 14 and some change, maybe around 15. I can't tell from this chart, but around 14, 15 bucks. So
how about this? Americans thinking critically about something. It's amazing. And sitting here in amazement as I watch anyone think critically about anything that they hear on the news, whether it's financial, political, whatever. We need to have more of this, like this guy here. I don't even know who the hell he is, but he's thinking critical, and he's thinking critically. He's got my attention.
It has basically slightly more than doubled. Let's just say doubled. And if you go back further, back when the collapse happened, 2008-9, it was like $4 or $5 or something. That would be a 3 times amount going up. You know, $5 times 3, $15. That's where we're at today. Why would you be taking a company out of your Dow Jones Industrial Average system, because it's a group of companies that makes up the Dow? Why would you be taking one of them out that has apparently done quite well over the last several years, defied physics and logic like the rest of them, and now you're going to dump it? Well, if you already know that the stock market's going to crash,
there you go.
Mainly because of the financial entities out there, such as Bank of America, Citigroup, JP Morgan, HSBC, Goldman Sachs. I'm talking about the club. And you know their stocks are fixing to get hammered with the rest of the stock market. Maybe even more heavy duty than the rest of the stock market, because these are the ones that were the giants. Too big to fail are finally going to fail. So they're going to go down hard. You'd want to get them out of your little pool of good stocks or good companies to put in there. So I am taking this as a sign that they know Bank of America ain't going to survive this one.
Well, the thing here is there's much bigger than Bank of America, but it's still big because it's a criminal entity. Banking in this country is, and always has been, for the most part, over the last 100 years, since the financial coup known as the Federal Reserve Act, has been criminal, because it's about usury, it's about debt slavery, but more importantly, you can't do anything without a bank loan, basically, except maybe masturbate, smoke weed, or do something else. All right? Not everything. So they say some of the best things in life are free. I don't. That was probably a banker who said that. Anyway, thanks for that clip. Thank you for that clip there. Someone thinking, of course, that was realist news. But yeah, a lot of these too big to fails that got the huge bailout. And then, did they pay it back? Who knows? You cannot trust the media. The media is owned by the banks. The banks own the pharmaceutical companies who wrote Obamacare. The banks own John McCain, Lindsey Graham, Dianne Feinstein. We're going to talk about that beast of a woman. I don't even know if she is a woman, but she was called a fascist by Matt Drudge this week, because that is exactly what she is. Let us make no mistake about it. Dianne Feinstein is a fascist beast, and quite possibly a dual citizen with her allegiance to the state of Israel instead of America. But she's it's always about, this is how a country, we're witnessing how a country gets destroyed from the inside. Greed, this type of stuff would never happen. I would imagine it's kind of happened on some very, very low levels, but in a total different aspect, when you're dealing with a guy like Ron Paul, because lobbyists know, don't go to Ron Paul, because you're not going to get this guy to do what you want him to do for whatever price it is. Whatever the price is, you're not going to get him to do it. But Feinstein, guys like Chuck Schumer, and you'll hear this video. Hopefully I can pull it up. I think it's on Breitbart. Let me see if I can. Just want to cue these bad boys up and Have them for you. Of course, Politico runs Bloomberg's claim 7 kids are murdered with guns each day. And it's spooky how much this guy kind of looks like Bush, man. You could kind of do a couple things with this guy, and you could turn him into George W. Bush, or you could turn Bush into him, or him into Bush. It's a weird look-alike thing. But, you know, there are blood ties in all of this. There are blood ties in all of this. But Feinstein, guys like Michael Bloomberg, you got Rahm Emanuel, who leaves the Obama administration, becomes the mayor of Chicago, possibly with the exception of Los Angeles, the most criminal, compromised city in the history of our country. And it just, it just continues. Here is the video. Okay. Any number of videos on here, but yeah, I will. Let's see if I can I go back? Yes, I can. I just want to kind of hopefully cue this one up here so that it can be played at some point.
All stations come over to Mission A for our final
Oh, really?
go.
Oh, the advertisements, man. You just can't get enough. 30 seconds. Your video, your selected content will commence in 30 seconds after we barrage you with shit you don't need. But we'll figure out a way to convince you that you do. That you do. All right. So, it is Sunday, September 15th. We are halfway through the month of September, and we are almost through the year 2013, and insanity is on the menu. The wars, what you just heard this gentleman talk about in this clip. The stock market, the very financial system that we are being told is coming back, and this and that and the other thing. There's going to be another crash. There's going to be another situation. And they're going to do their best to make it look like, oh, this happened. Oh, we got into a war with Syria. Okay, well, that's still coming. Okay, there's conflict coming. They want it. They need it. They need a distraction from, they're going to bring the order out of the chaos. That's what they do. They bring the order out of the chaos. They're going to create the chaos, and then they're going and then they're going to get to manipulate society by, the problem, reaction, solution, Hegelian dialectic. They're going to get to offer the solution of peace or this or that. When the financial system collapses, they will be able to implement, whatever they want. And at some point they must be stopped. Papers have been drawn up in Congress for Obama's impeachment this week. They were written up, back when Libya was, brewing up. And then, of course, the congressional meetings where they said, listen, you got to come to us to get authorization to go to war. And, of course, Leon Panetta, another banker puppet, said, when the international community is like in danger or something, we'll go to NATO and all these other ones and blah, 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 the UN, the international community, and then we'll come back and tell you, Congress, what you're going to do or what we're going to do. And then, of course, you've got entities like NATO who have been involved in inserting Al-Qaeda into Syria close to 2.5, 3 years ago, to bring about problem, reaction, solution. It's a problem, reaction, solution. they create the problem. They still deny it. Like McCain denies, the green TV guy, that, that's false. I've never been associated with terrorists, blah, 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 blah. Yes, you are. Because bankers are terrorists. Financial terrorists. And that's who you are, John McCain. You are a banker puppet. That too. He's a puppet. I don't even know what that means, but he's that as well. It just continues and continues the lies. John McCain is a war profiteer. He does what the global banking cartel wants him to do through the handlers that they have in our country. And then he gets rewarded, 12 homes, this, that, and the other thing. And he's just a vile human being, as I said on last week's program. And I cannot emphasize that enough, that guys like him, Lindsey Graham, Chuck Schumer, Dianne Feinstein, Barbara Boxer, Dick Durbin, who, helps Monsanto attack our food freedoms and our health freedoms. These people are the fucking plague. They are the plague that is destroying America from the inside out. And we have to see that. We have to understand that there are people in this country, and not, domestic Al-Qaeda. These people fund the creation of the crazy jihadists, and then they fund their activities. They put, people in place to make them think that they're doing something, or that they're getting paid, or they're doing this. They're in there, shooting mortars with, what seems to be fluoride, some kind of fluoride or chlorine gas that was shot at those people, and that's why they were dying and or gasping for air, because even the UN this week, and I'm going to get into that. I've got a list of information that said no sign of sarin gas, no sign of chemical weapons. But the push goes on from the likes of Christiana Amanpour, who no doubt has a spouse that's involved in government. That's how these people get these jobs. Wolf Blitzer was blowing AIPAC. And then, of course, he became Wolf Blitzer in the Situation Room. This is Wolf Blitzer. I blew AIPAC for years in the Situation Room. So it's all a network of deception. Media, TV, it's just all lies. Social engineering through programming, social engineering through whatever they can do, because the banks own the television set companies, the ABC, NBC, CBS, the pharmaceutical companies. They own it all. That was the goal from the very beginning, to consolidate all of this power down into small groups of people that basically want to hurt you and your family. And it's no bullshit. It can be proven. I will do my best to show you the information. I only have 3 hours on Sunday to do so, but I'm going to try to start expanding into a couple times during the week to really elaborate and get hammer down information that's health related. At some point today, we're going to have Jordan DeYoung on to talk about energy medicine, health related situations, people that he is treating with energy medicine. That's right, frequencies that kill pathogens in the body. That's where cancer comes from, pathogens in the body. Number of other things, but the pathogens that get proliferate due to an acidic environment on the inside. That's why calcium, you see calcium fortified, calcium enriched, calcium calcified into your calcifatonin. It's all about putting out the acids because the acids create the degenerative disease. Just like an acid will eat away at your car, it will eat away at your body. And of course, we're just gonna, this isn't just about geopolitical. I'm actually better at the whole health and nutritional thing. That's what kind of got me into this realm of why are they doing this? Why are they attacking vitamin C? Why are they attacking B12? Why are they attacking this? Why are they attacking that? Why would a poison like aspartame be allowed to be on the market for so many years? When there's, 99 plus symptoms associated with the consumption of aspartame with the methyl alcohol in it that mimics multiple sclerosis, messes with your vision, does all kinds of things to you, thanks to Donald Rumsfeld and him being an operative for Searle, G.D. Searle, back in the 60s and the 70s when they were creating toxins to proliferate through our environment to hurt us, to cause disease, and then profit from death and disease and pharmaceutical. Rockefeller, the whole deal, the Rockefeller family monopolized oil, medicine, Carnegie, all of these families monopolized on everything. They monopolized on energy. They destroyed Nikola Tesla and more importantly, him as a human being, but then his information of relatively clean, inexpensive energy. No. You can't have that. That makes a world more, a better world. You can't have. They control how the world goes. That's what we're seeing here. And those people don't get it. And that's okay. Soon you will, because it's going to be inevitable. They control the health of a society. They control the mental health, the physical health. The GMOs now are just the newest, latest attack on the human race by Monsanto and the bankers and the filth. So it's really not just all about gloom and doom here, because people need to really know this. You got to learn sometimes. Ignorance is bliss. I understand that, but you're not going to get away with it with me. I'll take you to the cliffs of Mordor and throw your fucking ass in. You do not get to, just have it your way. It's not about Burger King here. Have it your way. And I understand life's hard. I understand that life is hard, man. And it's tough, and they're chemtrailing your house. Oh, but there's another attack on humanity and the planet under the guise of, we've got to save the planet. You're killing it with your SUV. Now, I mean, it gets so outrageous that you can't even stick on one topic because it's all across the board. Every story you see is part of the multi-pronged attack against the people of the world. It's just, that's the way it goes. There's good and then there's evil. I'm good. and then there's evil. Jules, the program director of UCY.TV, good. George Bush, bad. Obama, bad. Banker puppet. Whether he knows what he's doing or he doesn't, he is locked in now. He doesn't do what they say. It's lights out, baby. Join JFK. That's how it works. Because it wasn't Oswald who took him down. It was the international banking cartels and their mercenary armies that took down John F. Kennedy. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies heavily on, it's just so. You heard in the beginning. Relies heavily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence. He knew that there was a group of people and that they owned the Federal Reserve. They controlled the banking in this country. He knew, and they took him down. And it wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald. Hey! They blaming me for shooting the president. I better run. Why did he shoot the cop? Because he realized all in that little piece of time that that's what his role was. That's what his role was, to be the dupe. Anywho, what's going on out there? Anybody alive in that chat room? Oh, ain't none. All right, there's activity in there. All right. Okay. Here we go. All right, well, first off, I want to show you what fascism looks like, and it looks like Dianne Feinstein. Tell me I didn't lose that. Tell me I didn't lose that, man. Let me kill the volume on that until I can get the lovely Miss Frankenstein, Miss Feinstein, to explain to us how people basically don't get to be journalists just by getting a website and, putting our feelings out there. Only the people that are going to protect her.
Mr. Chairman, first of all, I'd like to thank Senator Durbin and his staff. You've been a good and loyal partner in this for 4 years now.
Yeah, good criminal friends.
I'd like to thank Senator Schumer for being willing, and his people, who are terrific, to sit down and see if we couldn't work this out.
Another criminal, Schumer.
Let me explain why I think this amendment is needed. I've had long-standing concerns that the language in the bill as introduced would grant a special privilege to people who really aren't reporters at all.
Yeah, the right to free speech. See, the thing here is that the establishment keeps her and her husband, her banker husband, and their shenanigans all quiet, okay? Because she's part of a network that the system will protect, okay? So she doesn't want you to have free speech. And listen to what she's saying and understand why Matt Drudge called her a fascist, because that's what she is, and a beast.
Who have no professional qualifications whatsoever. The fundamental issue behind this amendment is, should this privilege apply to anyone, to a 17-year-old who drops out of high school, buys a website for $5, and starts a blog?
It applies to them.
Or should it apply to journalists, to reporters who have bona fide credentials?
Bona fide.
This bill is described as a reporter shield bill, so I believe it should be applied to real reporters. The attorney-client privilege applies to attorneys, not any non-legal advice.
And, of course, there's the criminal. If you look at the face of Chuck Schumer and, whoever's out there, don't turn this into, I understand that Dianne Feinstein is Jewish. I understand that Chuck Schumer is Jewish. Okay. Don't turn this into anti-Semitism. Okay. These people are creating their own path and their own trail of disgust and undue control of America. They do not and should not have the power to control speech. This is a part I'm going to go over a little bit more net neutrality, but I mean, Schumer is mafia. It's just that simple. He is another banker puppet, another AIPAC puppet, and he's supporting Dianne Feinstein to get an amendment to say, you're not a real journalist. You're not allowed to do this.
The spousal privilege applies to spouses, not to boyfriends and girlfriends. As I described the last time this committee passed this legislation, this could have been interpreted to cover hate websites, like that of the neo-Nazi organization, the National Socialist Movement, or even Senate press secretaries. So I am very grateful that the Media Coalition and Senator Schumer work cooperatively with Senator Durbin and me to make sure that the bill doesn't do that. So this amendment effectively sets up a test for establishing bona fide credentials that make one a legitimate journalist. The first part of our amendment, page 5, starting on line 15, defines a covered journalist as someone who is an employee, agent, or independent contractor for a media entity. It's important to note that as part of the compromise, we took out the word salaried before employee, as this apparently caused some unnecessary worry to some people. We included a very broad list of media entities the journalist can be affiliated with, including newspapers, news websites, and, quote, any other news service distributed digitally, among other things. Then we have a function
They want to slow down
which is essentially the same as what is in the bill now. Recognizing the migration of reports.
And, of course, this is going to go into the Internet, mentioning digital distribution. UCY has archives, so that's a digital distribution. Doug Owens, Blacklisted News Radio, that gets, when I was on Oracle, the distribution of digital information, that way as well. And the thing here is that she doesn't want, she knows that the non-network journalists are going to tie her feet to the back of a car and drag her through the mud. And that's what she's trying to stop that. She's trying to stop that. Guys like Wayne Madsen have said things about her that I was like, really? Wow. Then you check it out, you find out that it's verified. She is an overprivileged criminal in this country, like Chuck Schumer, it's a network of these people that never, ever go away. They never, ever fucking go away. Schumer forever. Feinstein forever. McCain. Graham. They never fucking go away. I'd like to put a please go the fuck away amendment in the Constitution that says you're done. 2 terms, whatever, you're done. Get the fuck out. Get the fuck away from us. And if you like it in Israel better, fucking go there.
Away from newspapers and magazines as those industries struggle. We also included on page 7, starting on line 17, a provision for a journalist to establish their journalistic bona fides, even if they're not currently affiliated with a media entity, through look-back provisions. As part of the compromise, we lengthened how far back in time the journalist's past experience could be.
So she's a beast, and I can't stop this. I can't stop this.
PNC Investments works with you to understand.
Bye-bye. So this is fascism, like Matt Drudge pointed out. This is what fascism looks like. The face, the horrific, beastly face of Dianne Feinstein, who never, ever goes away, who's always involved in some kind of gun grabbing, destruction of the Constitution, destruction of the Bill of Rights, has no affiliation with the beauty of these documents, and could just wipe her ass with them. She does not care about America, but she certainly is benefiting by the pearls around her neck and the pretty clothes that she gets to wear. And then, of course, she gets to hang out with and get support of the mainstream media, and, of course, mafia thug banker puppets like Chuck Schumer. You look at that guy. He's the fucking devil. Look at his face. He's the devil. This is not America anymore. It never was. Up to, might have been up to, the point where, before the Federal Reserve Act. But the Fed, Bernanke, Greenspan, I'm going to go over. I got some clips lined up of the what I like to call the crypt keeper, Alan Greenspan. Very, very just wicked people. Wicked people doing awful things to America. And so I just want to kind of go over, we just had as I said, the 12th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks in America. And none of it made any sense. Even so-called people with incredibly high IQs that claim that still believe that Oswald was the only shooter that day. The delusion, the energy that it takes in America to be so incredibly ignorant of what was seen. I even was talking to a friend, and she was explaining that one of her coworkers was on the verge of some kind of breakthrough when it came to 9/11, the buildings coming down, the buildings just collapsing, which has never really happened before, ever. And of course, two planes took down 3 buildings. And most people don't know what that third building was. World Trade Center 7. And these things were strapped with thermite. They were strapped with explosives that heat up to 4,000 degrees or higher, or the heat that would melt steel. Okay, and architects for engineers, we're going to kind of go over some of that, and show you that 2,000 before you got to go clean your britches if you're listening to this show for the first time. 2,000 architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth. I've met personally Richard Gage at least at 3 different events. The last time that I was in that architects and engineers area, he had come to Philadelphia, and there was other architects and engineers in Philadelphia that they were in town to show the they were in town to show like the new revision of the architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth documentary. And so I was able to, be there, ask questions, mingle with other people that, understand that that day was a deception of immense proportion. And so even afterwards, we went and we drank together. We had we broke some bread together, and it was a very satisfying situation when you get to be in the arena of people that are really, really sticking their necks out to say and point out, hey, these buildings, and all they're really saying is these buildings came down, controlled demolition. We've got proof beyond a shadow of a doubt, and we want a new investigation. We want a new investigation. Even Alan Grayson said, he was like, now that bin Laden's dead, we should declassify all these documents and get the truth. Even he knows it's a lie. But there's a lot of these politicians that just play the game, especially cretins like Dianne Feinstein and Chuck Schumer. And there's just a whole list of them. You just never really hear them. You never really hear their names mostly. So I guess what we're going to do here is I'm going to go over a story before the end of the program about Israel getting American data, us freely just giving Israel our data, information about us to Israel for whatever reason. So the NSA is in bed with Israel, or was that always the case? Are they working for Israel? It's just, it's almost a joke now. It's almost a joke, now. And as I said, the evidence is overwhelming that the 9/11 attacks were false flag in nature. It was a deception. Basically, these 19 jihadists, this is, there's any different numbers of scenarios, but, whether we let it happen or we made it happen, it's irrelevant. That's irrelevant. But there are people inside this country with the assistance of Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney and the moron George Bush, who sat there like, this is the truth. Rethink911.org, I think it is. It's huge. I'm going to try to play a clip from Ben Swan talking about Rethink911.org. So anyway, a nation with all of its I's dotted and T's crossed would have never been as totally vulnerable as the U.S. was that day. I mean, I think we can agree on that. 19 men. Now, this is dialogue from a video made by James Corbett called 9/11 in 5 minutes. So I'm going to read a little bit of it, and then I'm going to play it, and then as we're doing it, I'm going to try to break down some of it and show how ridiculous that the official story of 9/11 is. 19 men with box cutters, directed by a man on dialysis in a cave thousands of miles away, using a satellite phone and a laptop, directed the most sophisticated, this is what we were told. Now, 19 men with box cutters, directed by bin Laden, who was on dialysis and basically lived in caves thousands of miles away, using a satellite phone and a laptop, directed the most sophisticated penetration of the most heavily defended airspace in the world. I'll read that again. They directed the most sophisticated penetration of the most heavily defended airspace in the world. They overwhelmed the passengers and the military combat trained pilots in 4 planes and flew them wildly off course for close to an hour without being confronted by a single fighter interceptor. Okay, because they were all strategically pushed out of the way to set the ground for the lack of a fighter interceptor on these 4 planes that flew off course and wildly for an hour. Doesn't happen. And if you do believe that it does, kill yourself. Again, they overwhelmed the passengers and the military combat trained pilots in 4 planes and flew them wildly off course for close to an hour without being confronted by a single interceptor fighter. The 19 hijackers, who were devout religious fundamentalists who liked to drink alcohol, snort cocaine, and live with pink-haired strippers, managed to knock down 3 buildings with 2 planes in New York. While in Washington, the hijacker who could not handle a single-engine Cessna managed to fly a 757 in an 8,000-foot descent into a 270-degree corkscrew turn to come exactly level with the ground and fly directly into the Pentagon. Again, the 19 hijackers, who were devout religious fundamentalists who liked to drink alcohol, snort cocaine, and live with pink-haired strippers, managed to knock down 3 buildings with 2 planes, while in Washington, the hijacker, Hani Hanor, who could basically not, handle a single-engine Cessna, managed to fly a 757 in an 8,000-foot descending 270-degree corkscrew turn to come exactly level with the ground and fly directly into the Pentagon. It hit directly into the budget analyst office, where just the day before, Donald Rumsfeld, whose office was 180 degrees from the point of contact, DOD staffers the day before were trying to figure out where $2.3 trillion went missing. And of course, that day, all of those records were destroyed. Okay, so not only do we experience the most devastating attack ever on American soil, but you get yourself a cover-up of $2.3 trillion missing in one flash. On September 10th, Rumsey, who I like to call Rumsfeld, had a meeting discussing all of the $2.3 trillion missing and collaborated on it on that day. The news anchors knew who did it within minutes, bin Laden. The pundits knew within hours that it was bin Laden. The administration knew within the day that it was bin Laden. A hijacker passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center, if you can believe that. A plane that flew with incredible speed into a large architectural tower of steel and concrete and everything that goes along with that. A passport just flew out of the air. And it was in the condition that somebody could look at it and say that it was one of the hijackers' passports. They could see that from a plane, basically probably at that point maybe flying 250, 300 miles an hour, maybe more. They found a passport. That's total bullshit. And if they did, it was planted there and not from the plane. It was part of the network that is destroying America and needed a catalyzing event or a Pearl Harbor type event like 9/11 to bring us to where we are now. Because as I said last week, prior to that, in 98, 99, the Goldman Sachs and the derivatives, Larry Summers, Robert Rubin, as Clinton was on his way out, they deconstructed Glass-Steagall. They deregulated the entire system, setting the stage for what happened in 2008, leading up to 2008. And of course, you have to have you get your attack, and then you start your war on terror, and then America never is the same again. Bullshit. Bullshit. All right, so going to play a clip from a woman by the name of Susan Lindauer, who wrote a book called Extreme Prejudice, who has some very interesting information because she was in there. We got Sibel Edmonds, who was for the UN, she was some kind of, I'll pull it up, but she again heard information going back and forth. Was she an interpreter or something at the UN or something? Anyway. So there's been any number of different, bits of information there. Is that a Rumsfeld thing there? Who's this? Oh no, that's not the one. Maybe I can play this later. Hold on. So anyway, as I said, rethink911.org. Let's go to, I'm going to play the, hopefully, man, I'm getting pissed off here at this now. This is a damn thing. You know, come on. All right, here it is. 9/11 in 5 minutes. James Corbett. The official story of 9/11 is a lie. Six of the 10 members of the 9/11 Commission said the final report was a whitewash. Given everything that was once considered theory has been documented fact, how many more lies will you believe from the government because you realize that you really don't know everything going on in the world? Take 5 minutes out of your regularly scheduled corporate controlled media and get a dose of the truth. And then do your own homework. It's not too hard to do on all of the information present here. Okay, so here it is. James Corbett, masterpiece, 5 minute masterpiece, 9/11, the truth in 5 minutes.
On the morning of September 11th, 2001, 19 men armed with box cutters directed by a man on dialysis in a cave fortress halfway around the world using a satellite phone and a laptop directed the most sophisticated penetration of the most heavily defended airspace in the world, overpowering the passengers and the military combat-trained pilots on 4 commercial aircraft before flying those planes wildly off course for over an hour without being molested by a single fighter interceptor. These 19 hijackers, devout religious fundamentalists who like to drink alcohol, snort cocaine, and live with pink-haired strippers, managed to knock down 3 buildings with 2 planes in New York, while in Washington a pilot who couldn't handle a single-engine Cessna was able to fly a 757 in an 8,000-foot descending 270-degree corkscrew turn to come exactly level with the ground, hitting the Pentagon and the Budget Analyst Office where DoD staffers were working on the mystery of the $2.3 trillion that Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld had announced missing from the Pentagon's coffers in a press conference the day before, on September 10th, 2001. Luckily, the news anchors knew who did it within minutes.
Osama bin Laden.
The pundits knew within hours.
Osama bin Laden.
The administration knew within the day.
Terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbored them.
And the evidence literally fell into the FBI's lap.
That a hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site, if you can believe that.
Nope.
But for some reason, a bunch of crazy conspiracy theorists demanded an investigation into the greatest attack on American soil in history. That investigation was delayed, underfunded, set up to fail, a conflict of interest, and a cover-up from start to finish. It was based on testimony extracted through torture, the records of which were destroyed. It failed to mention the existence of WTC-7, Able Danger, P-TECH, Sibel Edmonds, OBL and the CIA, and the drills of hijacked aircraft being flown into buildings that were being simulated at the precise same time that those events were actually happening.
just a little break here, okay? So we've got drills that were going on at the same time, okay? Okay? Drills going on at the same fucking time, and those drills were built around planes crashing into buildings at the same time that planes actually crashed into the buildings. Really? Really? Okay. And I'm agreeing because they said that there were drills that were going on at the same time. And there's a reason for the drills going on simultaneously. It's called a distraction, deflection, and plausible deniability. Let's continue. Okay, as I said, World Trade Center 7, the building that came down without even being hit by a plane. You've got Able Danger, which is Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer, who's got 2 books and has been on the internet talking about all the things that he can talk about because he's still active duty. Okay, he knows that it was an inside job, but he can't say at this time. But everything that he says and everything leads up, he knows that our country and pretty much the world has been manipulated on a mass scale. And he's growing more and more knowledgeable about it every day. So let's, then of course, P-Tech, Sibel Edmonds, who testified. And of course, I'm going to play Susan Lindauer clip from RT. So let's continue with 9/11 in 5 minutes.
It was lied to by the Pentagon, the CIA, the Bush administration,
let me go back a little bit.
And aircraft being flown into buildings that were being simulated at the precise same time that those events were destroyed. It failed to mention the existence of WTC-7, Able Danger, P-Tech, Sibel Edmonds, OBL and the CIA, and the drills of hijacked aircraft being flown into buildings that were being simulated at the precise same time that those events were actually happening. It was lied to by the Pentagon, the CIA, the Bush administration, and as for Bush and Cheney, well, no one knows what they told it because they testified in secret, off the record, not under oath, and behind closed doors. It didn't bother to look at who funded the attacks because that question is ultimately of little practical significance. Still, the 9/11 Commission did brilliantly answering all of the questions the public had, except most of the victims' family members' questions, and pinned blame on all the people responsible, although no one so much as lost their job, determining the attacks were
failure of imagination.
Because
nobody in our government, at least, and I don't think the prior government could envision flying airplanes into buildings.
Except the Pentagon, FEMA, NORAD, and the NRO. The DIA destroyed 2.5 terabytes of data on Able Danger, but that's okay because it probably wasn't important. The SEC destroyed their records on the investigation into the insider trading before the attacks, but that's okay because destroying the records of the largest investigation in SEC history is just part of routine record keeping. NIST has classified the data that they used for their model of WTC-7's collapse, but that's okay because knowing how they made their model of the collapse would jeopardize public safety. The FBI has argued that all material related to their investigation of 9/11 should be kept secret from the public, but that's okay because the FBI probably has nothing to hide. This man never existed, nor is anything he had to say worthy of your attention, and if you say otherwise, you are a paranoid conspiracy theorist and deserve to be shunned by all of humanity. Likewise him, and her. And her, and her, and him. Osama bin Laden lived in a cave fortress in the hills of Afghanistan, but somehow got away. Then he was hiding out in Tora Bora, but somehow got away. Then he lived in Abbottabad for years, taunting the most comprehensive intelligence dragnet employing the most sophisticated technology in the history of the world for a decade, releasing video after video with complete impunity and getting younger and younger as he did so, before finally...
And of course the most recent lie where he was in there and there was a gunfight, he was killed and then they dumped his body into the ocean.
Being found in a daring SEAL team raid which wasn't recorded on video, in which he didn't resist or use his wife as a human shield, and in which these crack special forces operatives panicked and killed this unarmed man, supposedly the best source of intelligence about those dastardly terrorists on the entire planet. Then they dumped his body in the ocean before telling anyone about it. Then a couple dozen of that team's members died in a helicopter crash in Afghanistan.
And of course, Michael, I believe his name is Michael Strange, who was one of these SEALs. His father lives in the city of Philadelphia, and was just recently on with Jones Corporation and mentioned any number of different things and how he's infuriated by the lies that he's been told and the lack of information that he's got. But it's all about getting rid of the people that will corroborate, that will go against the official story. And there's a laundry list of people that were killed after 9/11. Okay? And they had to kill the so-called SEAL team off. So just get rid of the evidence. Just get rid of all of it. But the official story is still go along with it or be a piece of shit. Or go along with the story or be an un-American piece of shit.
This is the story of 9/11, brought to you by the media, which told you the hard truths about
his head could be seen to move violently forward.
And
they took the babies out of the incubators.
And
mobile production facilities.
And
the rescue of Jessica Lynch.
If you have any questions about this story, you are a batshit, paranoid, tinfoil, dog-abusing baby hater and will be reviled by everyone. If you love your country and or freedom, happiness, rainbows, rock and roll, puppy dogs, apple pie, and your grandma, you will never ever express doubts about any part of this story to anyone. Ever. This has been a public service announcement by the Friends of the FBI, CIA, NSA, DIA, SEC, MSM, White House, NIST, and the 9/11 Commission. Because ignorance is strength.
Indeed, ignorance is strength. And I mean, I've yet to see anyone in such a short time point out all of the information, well, not all the information, but the inconsistencies and how absurd, how completely and fucking totally absurd the official story of 9/11 is. All of the destroyed information, NIST is not of significance how they got their information. These are all compromised organizations. Before you do something like this, you have to have plausible deniability. You've got an operative in NIST. They took all this they took all the steel and everything, and there was only certain groups that were allowed in there that were pulling it out and doing here and doing this and doing that. This was, even if you do something as elaborate as this, on the scale that this was done, I've had people say, oh, something would come out, information would come out, it's too big. It has. You're never going to fucking hear it. And if you don't listen to me saying it to you because you're a douchebag, not you or these people out here, I'm referring to a few different people that I've had conversations with before, that are just, claim to be very, very, intelligent people, but, come on. Let's, and maybe these people, some people have not achieved what I have in my life, which is just, I will go and say average. And then of course there's people that achieved more and are making more money, but they still can't even understand that this is a manipulation. This is a lie. And it's easier for them to just go along to get along. Like as I said, go along to get along, America. That's what this is. That's what we become. Go along to get along. Oh, you don't want to say that because, that will, that'll get you in trouble to say that. Of course, when you control a society to a great extent, sooner or later, the people will start to police themselves, and then it just becomes a cycle of control, an oscillating policing of people around the scope, the spectrum, the full spectrum domination of the human mind. Here goes, what's her name? Susan Lindauer. I haven't heard too much about this woman, but, as we get further down the road, they're not going to be able to cover this stuff up. All right. So let's go with Lindauer here, and when she was on RT Russia Today.
Since 9/11, this country's desire for safety and security has given the U.S. government an unprecedented and unchecked amount of power. We've seen a crackdown on dissent that's unparalleled in recent history, including an outright assault on whistleblowers. Obama alone has already charged 8 people with espionage under a law drafted during World War I that was designated for foreign spies. The latest to be charged, of course, is Edward Snowden, an American citizen who's revealed the extent of the NSA's spying apparatus. And although Snowden's story continues to make international headlines, other lesser-known whistleblowers over the years have also exposed disturbing aspects of the security state, one of which is Susan Lindauer, ex-CIA asset and author of the book Extreme Prejudice, the terrifying story of the Patriot Act and the cover-ups of 9/11 and Iraq. She's joining us now to talk about her experience whistleblowing about Iraq and 9/11, and also just the greater war on whistleblowers. Here she is. Susan, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
So you claim that you were indicted, not charged, but indicted under the Patriot Act. Can you break down the most simplest of terms to the audience? What happened to you?
My story is a cautionary tale in this age of Edward Snowden and Julian Assange. Both of those men are very right to be afraid of the U.S. courts, and there are special considerations that Russia and Ecuador need to take into account when considering whether to grant asylum requests or whether to return them to the United States. And my case illustrates that. I was the chief CIA asset covering Iraq and Libya at the United Nations from 1995 to 2003. I gave advance warning about 9/11, and there was a peace option on the table with Iraq that the United States wanted to suppress. 30 days after I requested to testify on Capitol Hill, I went to Congress and requested to testify through proper channels. I woke to hear the FBI pounding on my door with an arrest warrant on the Patriot Act.
And you were accused of accepting unsolicited bribes from Iraqi, basically a spy for Iraqi intelligence, and that's incorrect.
That was incorrect, but that was incorrect information. There was no evidence to support it. So after the United States made the accusations, they invoked the Patriot Act to deprive me of the right to a trial. They refused even to grant my request for a hearing. I was hit with secret charges, secret evidence, secret grand jury testimony. I was never allowed to know who had accused me of what crime. The government had no obligation to provide any evidence that the crime ever occurred. But I was then, in the court of public opinion, I was already convicted.
Of course, just like all these other whistleblowers that we're seeing today. So let's talk about the warnings that you tried to give about 9/11. You said in April of 2001, you were actually told by someone higher up in the administration that about an imminent attack. I mean, specific details here: World Trade Center, hijacking of airplanes. What were you working on that you needed to know that information? I mean, you said that you were a CIA asset.
I was I was a covert back channel to the Iraqi embassy, and my CIA handler, Dr. Richard Fuse, instructed me to pass a message in April of 2001 to Iraqi diplomats and the Iraqi ambassador that the United States was seeking any fragment of intelligence regarding airplane hijackings and a known strike on the World Trade Center, and the threat that the United States was threatening war with Iraq from the highest levels of government, quote, and when you're back channel, it's very precise, quote, above the Secretary of State and above the CIA director. Now, that's only 3 people: the President of the United States, the Vice President, and the Secretary of Defense. That meant that all 3 of those individuals already knew about 9/11 in April of 2001.
And we know now that there were, dozens of warnings. It went well beyond the August 6th PDB that everyone talks about. I mean, we're talking about the light blinking red for months and months.
Yes.
Susan, my question, I guess, if people knew specifics, I mean, we're talking about specifics, not just warning bin Laden, attack impending. Why didn't more people call out the government's total plea of incompetence after the fact?
Well, what the government did was the government made an example of those of us who knew the truth. And they said, if you cross the line, now I want to emphasize, I requested to testify through proper channels. I was a whistleblower, but I did it through Congress. I tried to do it through Congress. And a lot of whistleblowers are citing my case as evidence that going through the proper channels is not going to work and is not going to protect the public or the whistleblower. It makes no difference. If the government feels threatened, they will attack you, even if you're doing everything right. So why not make sure that the public has the information?
So you're saying
if you'd known about the Iraqi peace option, the whole world could have stopped the Iraq war.
Well, of course. So yeah, you were trying to broker peace between Iraq as this liaison for the government. And so are you saying that the government purposefully allowed 9/11 to happen, made 9/11 happen?
Yes.
And that they were not
Absolutely.
interested in avoiding war with Iraq at all?
They had already decided that if the 9/11 conspiracy maximized damage on the towers, that there would be a perfect pretext for war. And they were overriding, Iraq's response to that was to invite the FBI to send a task force on terrorism into Baghdad with authorization to conduct a pre-9/11 investigation. Iraq said, if you think that there's evidence here, come get it. We want to help you because we want to preserve the peace option.
Well, what's weird is why didn't they tell you to go try to broker between Saudi Arabia or Afghanistan? I mean, they knew that bin Laden was involved in the PDB and the briefings. Why Iraq? It seems so non sequitur.
Yeah, oh, exactly. There was no, and Saddam Hussein was one of our best sources on terrorism intelligence. Right. Throughout the 90s, Iraq was very afraid of the Islamic jihadis who might destabilize the secular regime and take advantage of the poverty caused by sanctions to try to bring about some Islamic revolution. So Saddam was very eager to help identify terrorist conspiracies, and he saw that as a strong point of his administration, that he could reach across the table and keep a line open to Washington. And that's what I existed to do, because even under sanctions, we still had to protect international security from terrorist threat.
In light of the recent NSA revelations, Susan, I mean, you yourself were subject to really harsh crackdown from the government. I mean, even the author of the Patriot Act, though, he said that he never intended it to be used in the way that it is now. I mean, what do you think? When you're looking at everything that's happened over the last decade, did you foresee it ever getting to where it's gone and how pervasive it's become?
I was the second non-Arab American ever indicted on the Patriot Act. And the Patriot Act has criminalized dissension. It says that sedition is the act of opposing the government through nonviolent means has become such a threat that free speech itself is now criminalized by the Patriot Act. And I think we're going to see the Patriot Act applied to many more people, many more situations that were never intended. But once the government gives itself power, it does not revoke its power, ever.
Of course, and we're seeing now the Espionage Act, now 8 people charged in the Espionage Act. The great whistleblower Daniel Ellsberg said that Snowden's leak was the most important one in American history. Do you agree with that? Or do you think that there's a lot more that we're not being exposed to?
Edward Snowden appears to be a tipping point, and I consider that to be very valuable. A lot of what...
As I said, that was Susan Lindauer. I posted that in the chat room. And if you want to learn more about Susan, SUSAN is her, obviously Susan. Lindauer, that's Lindaur. Susan Lindauer, CIA asset, ex-CIA asset, pretty much punched in the face for wanting to get information out that she knew about. I mean, in that clip, it's... All right, let's go to Ben Swan and his report on 9/11 truth.
Did you know a third tower fell on 9/11? That sign is today right above Times Square here in New York City. It was placed there through donations to a group called Rethink 9/11. It's a global campaign that spans from Australia to Canada, from San Francisco to right here in New York City. So what is Rethink 9/11? And candidly, wouldn't only fringe people still question what happened on 9/11? Well, perhaps not. Today we're going to release to you results of a brand new poll that show that more and more Americans are rethinking what happened on 9/11, and increasingly, more people are saying they do not believe the government's version of events. The first step toward truth is to be informed.
Yeah, baby. Informed. What's that? You mean I have to think? That sucks.
Today here at Ground Zero in New York City, there stands a new North Tower, sometimes called the Freedom Tower, and a new Building 7, sitting approximately where the old Building 7 once stood. Americans have also promised to never forget what happened September 11th, 2001, along with the rest of the world. But to not forget does not mean that we do not rethink what we've been told. Rethink 9/11 is the first ever global 9/11 anniversary campaign, sponsored by a coalition of more than 40 organizations. Rethink 9/11 is placing ads in 11 major cities around the world this September 2013. According to architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth, there is much to rethink when it comes to that rectangular building right there. That is the new Building 7. It stands a little bit smaller, but relatively where World Trade Center 7 once stood. That third building, the third to come down on September 11th, yet most people don't remember it. And to be clear, controversies about Building 7 have long been the source of fodder, if you will, for so-called conspiracy theorists. In 2008, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, released its long-awaited report on the collapse of World Trade Center 7. The lead investigator, Shyam Sunder, told journalists,
World Trade Center 7 collapsed because of fires fueled by office furnishings. It did not collapse from explosives or from fuel oil fires.
We really have a new kind of progressive collapse that we have discovered here, which is a fire-induced progressive collapse.
As of today, 2,000 professional architects and engineers from around the world have come out to say that the NIST claim that Building 7 came down as a result of simple office fires is not only untrue, it's not possible. What's more, that no skyscraper in history has ever come down that way. Take a look. The way Building 7 fell was without the building tipping or rocking. And that in order to fall like this, a building could only come down if all the internal columns supporting that building were to give way at the same time. Engineering is a technical field, but most of us would know this as a controlled demolition. To better understand the claims of architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth, I talked with Tony Zambati, a mechanical design engineer with 27 years of experience in the aerospace and communications industries, and one of those 2,000 engineers calling for a new independent investigation into the collapse of Building 7 and the World Trade Center towers.
What a legitimate investigation would have done would have been to interrogate anybody who had access to those interiors. I'm not talking about office people. I'm talking about maintenance,
contractors,
security people, contractors, those type of people. That's never been done. That has never been done.
And I was going to ask you that too. Is that ultimately the goal here? Is to get? I've heard to get an independent investigation.
Yeah. Well, I think our government is responsible to do that. Although we would want it to be on board, and I don't believe the investigations done so far have been on board.
The claim from NIST, the final report that they released in 2008, I believe it was,
right,
says that building collapsed as a result of office fires.
Right.
And you all say that's not only not true, it's not possible. Why is that?
It is not possible. The initial walk off of the girder is impossible, and I've done a finite element analysis of that, and I can show you in detail that it's impossible. The column buckling, column 79, that buckling is impossible, and the complete free fall is impossible in a natural collapse.
And there is another issue of how NIST says Building 7 came down. They say it was normal office fires, but the technical explanation for that floor beams expanded because of heat and ultimately pushed a single column, column 79, off its seating. NIST says that caused the entire collapse of the building. What NIST went on to say in that report in 2008 was that the reason that column was able to be pushed off of its seating was because they said the column was unrestrained. And yet it was discovered last year in 2012, after a Freedom of Information Act request was granted, that NIST claim was not true. The columns were restrained. In fact, there were 3,896 shear studs holding those columns in place. So this has never happened. This would be the first time this has ever happened.
They say it's the first one that's ever happened.
It's ever happened.
They say thermal expansion caused it. What I say caused it is they took out the complete core for 8 full stories. And that pulled in the exterior, and in a controlled demolition, when you have a core and an exterior, when you take the core out, it pulls in the exterior and it comes down.
What happens if you leave half of them? So if it's not a controlled demolition, if you just have a failure of half the columns,
you'd have a partial collapse.
Now, something else Tony's very passionate about is something called deceleration, and this goes back to the collapse of the World Trade Center North Tower. If you take a look at this video, you can see how the tower began to collapse. But Tony says this isn't possible because of something called deceleration. Look, the easiest way to explain it is like this. If you take a nail and you hit it with a hammer, the force that drives the nail into a block of wood is caused by the hammer. But at some point, the force actually pushes the hammer backward. That process is called deceleration. So again, look at this video. Here's how it should happen. As the top of the tower collapses, you should see a moment of impact where the force of the top floors falling pushes them upward. But that doesn't happen. As Tony says, you can see the building goes into free fall. There is no deceleration. So the professional challenge to the official story, again coming from 2,000 architects and engineers, is that the only way these buildings can go into free fall is through a controlled demolition, meaning the columns inside the building have to be wiped out first. Now, that's again the professional challenge. So how do families of 9/11 victims feel about this? Some may be offended by the call for a new investigation, but others are not. Bob McElvain lost his son on 9/11.
First of all, Bob, thank you for sitting down with us. Tell us about your son. You said he worked for Merrill Lynch, and he went into work that morning, September 11th.
All right, Bobby had just started Merrill Lynch. No one was able to get a hold of Bobby. The towers hit, we weren't that worried because we knew he worked at Merrill Lynch. At least 150, I know 150 people called him that morning. No one ever got a response, but obviously the phone was working.
But he worked at Merrill Lynch, so why was he at the North Tower?
There was a seminar. So this is what we had figured. There was a seminar Merrill Lynch was sponsoring on the 106th floor that day.
All right, just for station identification on this long clip here, Ben Swan talking to Robert McElvain, whose son, he lost his son in the World Trade Center bombing. He wants answers, and of course this is UCY.TV broadcasting network, Cole Reality Radio. Shaliak is your host. We'll be live for another hour and a half, continuing with the 9/11 footage, the 9/11, pretty much the 9/11 episode or broadcast for the 12th anniversary of 9/11, and of course rethink911.org. We just want a new investigation, and we want people to go to jail because this was, in fact, a lie from beginning to end.
For Bob, the most shocking thing about his son's death is that unlike most 9/11 families, Bob was able to recover parts of his son for burial, and he actually received a cause of death from the coroner.
I finally got up to the morgue, talked to the doctor who examined him. Now, no matter how you look at it, he got hit by a sudden force.
Based on the fact that he was impacted by something.
Something, yeah, a force.
Yes.
Yeah, some sort of force.
Okay.
So, because top of his head was taken out, his right arm was blown off.
And his body had lacerations.
Lacerations. So I finally came to the conclusion, well, he didn't go to work, so obviously he decided to go to the 106th floor. Now everyone's thinking, well, was he up in the 106th floor? And I said, well, no, he didn't jump. He wouldn't have those kind of injuries. He had a compound fracture on the one leg, right? But the injuries weren't, and we would have, if he was on the 106th floor, we would have heard from him too. Because a lot of people were calling out on the 106th floor because they weren't hit by the plane. So they were trying to figure out how to get out of there. So then reading, and I left you in a pamphlet, the oral histories of one firefighter. He came in, this firefighter, and it's from these oral histories that I came to this conclusion. He walked into the west side, and his description, everything was blown out. The louver doors going in. And in the center of the center of the building, all these elevators were blown out. And finally, in 2007, I got the guts to call up New York and said, look, I want to find out what happened to my son.
According to Bob and the autopsy he showed us, his son Bobby was not killed by being burned. In fact, the burns his son received came after he died.
So the planes had nothing to do with his death. And I really could prove that in a court of law easily. So therefore, if the planes had nothing to do with his death, who killed him?
Well, the claims made by both Bob and Tony are compelling, to say the least. But where is the American public on this issue? A newly commissioned poll shows that in the 12 years since 9/11, there may be growing skepticism when it comes to the official story on 9/11. According to that poll, 38% of Americans have doubts about the official account of 9/11, and 10% do not believe it at all. That's compared to only 40% who are completely satisfied. And there is more, because when you start asking questions specifically about Building 7, the public is even more skeptical. 46% suspect or are sure that it was a controlled demolition, compared to 28% who say fires. That, again, the official story. 27% don't know. And of those polled, the largest group, 41%, support a new investigation of Building 7's collapse. Again, what architects and engineers is calling for, compared to 22% who oppose it. Well, back here in Times Square, and what you need to know is that to rethink 9/11, some would say, is unpatriotic. Others would say is conspiratorial. But increasingly, those folks are in the minority. It's amazing how far we've come in 12 years. And consider this, despite what this campaign is all about, to rethink 9/11 is about much more than just September 11th, 2001. Over the past 12 years, every civil and constitutional right that's been taken from Americans has been done so in the name of security. Our right to due process, our freedom of speech, our right to our personal effects, the right to privacy, all of it taken as part of the global war on terror in the name of security. Now, we can have an argument about whether or not today we are more secure. But one thing that is beyond argument is whether or not today we are more free. To rethink 9/11 means that we still have the right to question those who have taken our rights, how they've taken them, and why. And that is Reality Check. Well, now that you've been informed, it's time to get engaged. Go right now to benswan.com. There you're going to find this story where you can view it again, as well as the text of the story and the sources that we have used. Also, if you would like to help us create more episodes just like this one, you can do so by clicking on the Contribute tab on the right-hand side of the screen.
All right, so Ben Swan really breaking it down. This guy's a badass, and he's done an incredible job. Really just kind of analyzing the situations, talking to, by the way, that Tony Zambati, he was present in Philadelphia. I want to say it was wasn't this summer, it was last summer. I believe it was last summer. Pretty sure. Tony Zambati was present at the time, so I was able to meet him as well. And so, I mean, it's just overwhelming. The evidence is overwhelming. And then you say, how could this happen? Why would this happen? This is global conquest. This is the control of the masses by trauma-based mind control. Trauma-based mind control. But I know that you saw it in a movie, so it can't be for real, but it's for real. Okay? That's the deal. That's the deal. It's for real. All right, let's see what else we got here. And the way that they get away with this is here. So let's see if I can play this clip here.
I apply it I have the ideology because I believe that it is the best way of coming at the world and what type of policy.
What is the proper relationship, what should be the proper relationship between a chairman of the Fed and a president of the United States?
Well, first of all, the Federal Reserve is an independent agency, and that means basically that there is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take. So long as that is in place and there is no evidence that the administration or the Congress or anybody else is requesting that we do things other than what we think is the appropriate thing, then what the relationships are don't frankly matter. And I've had very...
So that was Alan Greenspan, once director, head of the Federal Reserve, and basically saying that we do whatever we want. It was set up that way in 1913 for them to do whatever it is that they fucking want to do, and that no entity can question what they do. And then he said if there is any evidence which always gets bought off, or that evidence gets has an unfortunate accident, then they continue to do whatever they want to do in whatever way they want to do it. And that's why Kennedy was killed, because these guys are fucking a mafia. They are a mafia. The Fed, internally here, and then, of course, externally, that is part of the reason why something like this is able to be funded. Something like an organization like NIST, it can be, just completely taken over to the point where they put out false information and or classify information for security of how they came to the actual, they came to the actual, how this all happened, how 9/11 happened. Let's just put that away. We don't need to, because if somebody else saw it, then they could do the same thing. It's just bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. Of course, that's Greenspan. Ben Bernanke would say the absolute same thing, because he, in fact, is a criminal as well. And let's see what we got here. Let's see. I've got other clips here. And here goes more from the Crypt Keeper, Alan Greenspan. Let's watch what he says here.
Are U.S. Treasury bonds still safe to invest in?
Very much so. I think this is not an issue of credit rating. The United States can pay any debt it has because we can always print money to do that.
They can always print money to do it. See, there is their power. They control the money. And he says it, and there's a gentleman sitting next to him, and the guy, the look on his face, he's obviously well versed in the economy, and he hears what this jackass says, and he's like, really? So let's play it again.
The United States can pay any debt it has because we can always print money to do that. So there is zero probability of default.
There will come a point where printing money is not going to be an option. It's not going to be and that's coming. There will be no more bailouts. There will be nothing except a society that was destroyed by the bankers, a planet that was destroyed by criminal bankers. What else we got here? Okay, let's play this. This is the warning. It's a frontline thing here, so let's hear more information about how powerful these people are.
Government is the problem.
In 1987, Reagan made Greenspan the most powerful banker in the world, the chairman of the Federal Reserve.
Greenspan was a believer in Ayn Rand, a believer in free market. A little bit curious for a central banker, because what is central banking? It's a massive intervention in the market, setting interest rates.
And of course, that was Joseph Stiglitz, who I mentioned last week, who during a lot of these Larry Summers, Robert Rubin, Bill Clinton, talks about the economy, they would say things like, what would Goldman think? And Stiglitz, who wasn't really in on the conspiracy or, the real information, he said, why shouldn't we be concerned with what the American people think? And then once they realized that he didn't really get what was going on, they decided that he wasn't going to attend these meetings anymore. And as I said, Joseph Stiglitz, and he was, let's go back and.
Intervention in the market.
Stiglitz was a senior Clinton economic advisor from 93 to 97. Now, he was given this title, all right, so he could probably somewhere in there, he got in there, and then 97 he decided, I'm done. Or they decided, you're done, because, he just didn't, you can only have a certain amount of people that are actually in and have the information that's needed to do what these vile bastards have done.
Interest rates.
Greenspan worried about this contradiction in his autobiography.
I knew I would have to pledge to uphold not only the Constitution, but also the laws of the land.
How about that?
Many of which I thought were wrong.
Now the Vice President will swear Alan Greenspan in as the third.
He swore the oath and took the job.
I had long since decided to engage in efforts to advance free market capitalism as an insider, rather than as a critical pamphleteer.
He understood that there were laws he had to enforce that he personally would not have passed, but he intended to do as little as he could on regulation, and he proceeded to do just that.
And by the time Bill Clinton took the White House, the anti-government rhetoric had become so fashionable that even some Democrats embraced it.
Ronald Reagan had won. Government was seen as the problem, and even though Bill Clinton was someone who believed in government and wanted to use it, he was kind of forced into that Reagan-esque ideology because that was what people wanted to hear.
From the beginning, Clinton aimed to reassure powerful forces on Wall Street. And he did so with a key appointment.
I asked Robert Rubin to serve as assistant to the president for economic policy.
Rubin is the best-known financier in the country at that point because he had run the legendary Goldman Sachs.
Boeing.
Bob Rubin was Bill Clinton's emissary to Wall Street. Clinton placed great trust in Bob Rubin and Bob Rubin's view of financial markets and financial regulation.
He had an enormous amount of credibility because he was a business success, and Democratic administrations always seem to worship people who can excel at business.
At the White House, and as Treasury Secretary, Rubin found an unlikely ally. Clinton had asked Alan Greenspan to stay on.
Bob Rubin and Alan Greenspan were very much in lockstep. They had very similar views.
Well, first off, let's make it clear. Clinton says nothing about anything about who stays on and who goes or who does anything, okay? The presidents make none of these. They make none of these decisions whatsoever. But it's made to look as if they had made these decisions. A lot of the things that Reagan was praised and touted for, he had nothing to do with, and most of it was just lies and media manipulations to create a class of people like the Sean Hannitys who blow the thought of Reagan and the spirit of Reagan every chance he gets. Just drop to his knees like a puppet sheeple of a system that was meant to drag people along on this roller coaster ride economically. And as I said last week, on the downturn, when they create these bubbles that burst, they on the downside where everyone else is starving or out of work, they're making the most money. And of course, with the financial crisis in 2008, the biggest theft of money and transfer of wealth ever, which was much, much more than just the $700, $800 billion. These people are, this is part of an agenda, and we are seeing it, just like the Iran-Contra and the creation of these fundamentalists, the creation of the Mujahideen and Osama bin Laden and everything. It's all meant to create a narrative, a meme, a trail of when we get attacked and the media says bin Laden, people go, oh, I heard that name before. It's not because you're smart. It's because you're a sheep and you get pulled in and you either believe it or you think critically, if that's even possible in our society today, to think critically about anything at all, because most of America is just one big jackass.
On Wall Street, it boiled down to the less regulation, the better.
And Rubin populated the Clinton administration with a network of free market true believers.
It wasn't just Rubin and Greenspan who were these free market acolytes. That thinking pervaded the Treasury and the White House.
Among Rubin's acolytes, 35-year-old.
See, here we go. Here we go again, where this guy says that thinking pervade everywhere. It was meant to do that. It was planned to do that. And even this jackass who takes part in this documentary and they ask questions of, he's even fallen into this thing like, oh, it was a way of thinking that just became commonplace and blah, blah, blah. It's like, you moron, you're a jackass.
Old Timothy Geithner.
There he is.
And Rubin's top deputy, the outspoken Harvard economist Larry Summers.
Yeah.
Summers is tough. Summers is very blunt-spoken.
Some pretty much call him a moron, falling asleep at things. I mean, he's just a puppet that's moved around, who's given power. And now, as I said last week, he's the front runner, if not a shoo-in for the replacement of Ben Bernanke.
Except for fools lightly or anyone else, as the saying goes.
Bob Rubin is not a guy who likes confrontation. He's confrontation averse. But he understands you need someone in there who can swing a heavy axe. And that person was Larry Summers. He was the enforcer.
Together, Greenspan, Rubin, and Summers.
Well, you know what? You got to swing a heavy axe if you're going to chop America's head off, right?
Formed their own pro-business anti-regulation support group.
They're the Committee to Save the World, according to the Time magazine cover.
You see how I'm looking here and I'm seeing the inside story of how three marketeers have prevented a global economic meltdown so far. And there's Rubin and Greenspan and then Summers, all Jewish guys. See, so this is what we're dealing with in society here when we talk about the Jewish conspiracy, this, that, the Jesuit, the this, the that. I mean, as we kick the can down the road, you hit a Jew who's in power, who's got the power of the checkbook in America. So it's like, somebody's seriously, heavily using these Jews, empowering these Jews to do what they're doing. And of course, we're talking about the Illuminati at the very top of the apex, where they pretty much, whatever Jews, Catholics, whoever's at the top of this pyramid, they have no religion whatsoever. They are very, very bad people doing very, very bad things, and one would call them Satanists. Because you can't poison children in vaccines, and poison the water with fluoride, and poison our minds with bullshit on television, and so many other things. Create war after war after war, fund Al Qaeda, and then say you got to go in to stop. You got to go in to stop Bashar al-Assad and not Al Qaeda. You know, and it's just ridiculous. So the Committee to Save the World, 3 Jewish guys.
These are the people we turn to at that moment, who together, all 3 in a way, say, trust us.
They seem to have things under control.
Yep.
You know, the world trusted Rubin and Greenspan, so why wouldn't Clinton? You know, and the market was doing great, and the country seemed to be doing great.
Until the memo.
The Warning. Watch online or on air beginning October 20th.
Now, I don't know if this is coming up this front line, but of course this is PBS, and of course Rockefeller back in the early 1900s to improve their image. They turned themselves into philanthropists, you know, making it look like they were giving their money back, that they stole from everyone, to, give their money back, in the form of public television, medicine, things like that, while they create the birth control pill and destroy, the collective, female system with their poisons and their petroleum-based, toxins. So this is how it's done. This is how the Goldman Sachs, Robert Rubin associated with them. You've got everybody associated with this bank. They are the criminals. They are the people that have been injected. Goldman Sachs has been injected into all these countries, Greece, all this stuff, got them linked into this derivatives bubble nightmare. And then when they know that they can't pay this back, then they take all of your shit. They take all of your fucking shit. And that's the goal, to get everything. So, it's up to people to continue living in the ignorance is bliss thing, because you know what? It's coming to your door. Might not be tomorrow, might not be a year from now, might not be 3 years from now, 5, but it's coming to your door. And as a result of all the things that have happened, we are going to have a crisis of immense proportion financially, and they are going to cover that up with wars and conflict and keep on telling you, hey, as they build this full spectrum domination information, of everyone through their cell phones, or the new iPhone 5S coming out with the biometric, touch button. Oh, it's so cool. It's just so cool. Oh my God. Oh wow. What's we got? Jules just dropped a bomb on me here with this, a info bomb. The info bomb. Let's see. Iceland did take IMF bailout. Let's see. Let's see what we got here. Damn you, Iceland, not found. Error 404. This is interesting because I'm not seeing this. I'm not seeing it. I went to the page and I'm not seeing what, well, let's see here. We got Iceland did take IMF bailout. Well, that's very interesting because they were said to be, some of the, individuals that, or one of the countries that did not. And, they were being praised as, the holdouts and the ones that did not give in. So let me Google this. Iceland did take, okay, maybe this is it.
Yeah, it keeps on coming up as not found. Hold on a second. Let's see. Did take IMF bailout. All right, let's see. IMF says bailout to Iceland. Iceland gets $4.6 billion bailout from IMF. That's Bloomberg. IMF's toxic bailout of Greece. Let's see, is that... All right, let's see here. Let's see. All right, this document I'm pulling up here is from, let's see. All right, so turns out that there's been a, I don't know, is this misinformation that they put out that they didn't take the bailout, or was that, anyway, I'm sure we're going to get into that. To get more information on that, Jules seems like she's got a pretty good grasp of that at this time. So tune into Before the First Cup, 9 a.m. Eastern time, or is it gone? It could be 10 to 12 now that JJ's back. So be on the lookout for Before the First Cup, or get the archive from last night's After the Last Cup on at ucy.tv. And then look for the shows. You'll see all the archives, and then there all our digital information that makes Dianne Feinstein so nervous about, trying to cover up all of her crimes against humanity. The insider trading and all. All right. So what I wanted to do is go over, what do we got? Verizon's plan to turn the web into a pay-per-view type thing. Verizon is fighting in court to end the FCC's policy of net neutrality. They are changing the way that things are done. These are corporations. These are we're dealing with fascism, or the corporatocracy, the technocracy, whatever you want to call it. All of these stories tie together because we are experiencing a global consolidation of power across the board, and it is pretty much, being built to spy on and control humanity because, we pretty much, it's not we the people here in America, and it certainly isn't in all these other countries. So, pretty much if we fall, it's only a matter of time for everywhere else. And of course, the top story on Drudge, the U.S. Prepared to use force in Iran. Of course, President Obama declared that the United States is still, this is the Washington Post, is still prepared to act militarily to stop Iran from developing nuclear weapons despite the decision to pursue a diplomatic deal and not strike Syria over its alleged use of chemical weapons. Now, I wanted to say that Vladimir Putin, Putin will go to Iran to talk nuclear strategy, the nuclear strategy for Iran, because we know that that's what the focal point here. Weapons of mass destruction and people that are supposed to use it. But it's okay for Israel to have this and decimate the Palestinians and whoever's over there. They also control the media. It's controlled over here, AIPAC, the whole deal. So they can tell you whatever story they want and justify the killing of children and everywhere, pretty much whatever they want, they get. That's the deal. That's how it goes, man. And as I said, Putin's going to go over there. Pootsy is off to Iran to meet the new Iranian leader that replaced Mahmoud members only jacket wearing Ahmadinejad. He will use diplomacy to try and diffuse and inform other nation states that Iran is no threat, or no nuclear threat. This, however, means nothing to Israel because they want to build real estate in the entire Middle East and would bomb Iran if they had bottle rockets and slingshots, because it's really about Israel not wanting Syria or Iran to be in the Middle East and not the other way around. On another note, the leader of Iran's proxy militia group in Iraq stated that if America attacks Syria, they will in fact, or as what they're saying, that they will attack the oil fields of Saudi Arabia, cutting off the economic jugular of the United States of America. Now, this will, when this does happen, and I'm pretty sure it's gonna, that's going to be the excuse, and it's going to gloss over the fact that there was never a recovery. There was never meant to be a recovery of our economy, and they have to get to the point where there's so many other amazingly awful things happening that you will just be just riveted to the television set, because the terrorists are coming to get us. We are all most likely being played here because conflict is needed. All right. And by the social engineer puppets like Obama, Netanyahu, Frankenstein, Kerry, and they will do what is needed for their masters. They will do whatever. Securing Syrians' weapons may require troops. Geneva was the meeting place where John Frankenstein Kerry and Russia's foreign minister Sergei Lavrov talked and strategized on how to have international teams take control of a chemical weapons stockpile. This is all window dressing. Conflict is, as I said, is needed and will happen in whatever form they can. They've already rebolstered the rebels and Al Qaeda's war, the war chest over there for them to destroy Syria. And even Christopher Hedges is keeping up on this. I saw a clip last night where he said that exactly that the goal is to destroy Syria from within, and then they won't even really need to bomb because they've already been, U.S. has already been at war with Syria through this proxy war, NATO, America against Assad. Of course, it also has the geopolitical, the geostrategic, oil. There's big plans, baby, big plans, and you don't know about them. As I said, this is window dressing. Conflict is needed, and it will happen. Kerry and Obama and the like are showing diplomacy only because they have to. Revealing that they are banker, puppet, war-mongering liars has put them in, they have to, they're in check now because revealing that who they really are is bad on the global, theater, the global stage now. So they have to make it look like they are taking advantage of Putin's diplomacy so that, they can make it look like they're human and not blood-drinking reptiles. The light is shining on the insects that run our military and the ones that profit from killing and bombing brown people. It's not an option right now that has, put them. They don't have very many options. So fake diplomacy is fake diplomacy is what is on today's menu. Of course, Obama made a speech on Tuesday night. Blah, blah, blah. Big queer that he is. And blah, 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 blah. The American people, blah, blah, blah. Go fuck yourself, Obama. You're worse than the people that are controlling you because you're just an ass puppet. You're just an ass puppet, baby. Boston Logan Airport ran a drill that scared the shit out of people on 9/11. More dog training for future, totalitarian tactics. In the Boston area. Of course, I said Dianne Feinstein is garbage. Verizon's plan to turn the web into pay-per-view. We covered that. They keep an eye on that story. If you're a Verizon customer, they are fighting in court to end the FCC's policy of net neutrality. And there's no fight there. The FCC, just like the EPA and the FDA and all these other governmental organizations, it's just all window dressing now to make it look like there's some semblance of control over tyranny and tyranny's vicious path to just crushing the average, American and or human being on planet Earth. It's all good, baby. It's all just fine, man. The UN team finds no evidence of chemical weapons use. NSA shares raw intel with Israel, including Americans' data. Snowden again reveals that our data as Americans is going to Israel via the NSA. The deal was, what was that? The deal was, readied or whatever. I guess that's what I wrote there. In 2009, according to an undated memorandum. Okay, there was an undated memorandum in 2009, which elaborated more on the logistics of our information being sent to not our friend and not our ally, Israel. The 5-page memo stressed the protection. Now, this is, of course, bullshit because at some point they figure it's going to be seen by someone. They won't be able to hide it, but let's put this in here to make people think that it's not draconian filth. The protection of the memo stressed the protection of United States persons. It also repeatedly stressed the constitutional rights of Americans' privacy and the need for Israel intelligence to respect these rights. And of course, overall, this is not backed by the legal obligations. This, and as I just said, this was obviously included in the memo, realizing that it would ultimately be seen by an alternative media source. And then, you wouldn't hear anything. You'd see anything, or, that's the way it goes. I mean, it would be seen by the external media, and then when the average Joe or Jane that doesn't understand that that there's so many awful things going on in America by the bankers and the politicians that are destroying it, they would see this and think that there's still hope for America when, in fact, the secret deal puts no legal limits on the use of the data by the Israelis. And so many others. Let's see here. Let me go into my database, man. My database. I wanted to read this story here about hyperinflation. All right. Let's, the first, Zero Hedge says, nailing it once again. First signs of hyperinflation have arrived. It began last week with the meeting of POTUS Obama, president of these here United States. Obama and his most supportive lobby, the banking industry, and then, of course, AIPAC. Just a few months in an article, just a few months into his presidency, and an article was written as to why Obama will not solve the financial crisis by the end of 2009. The media in the U.S. and Europe saw Obama like a rock star, which of course means that the media is an adolescent girl who is blind to a great many things. In direct opposition to this media love affair, Obama was yet involved in the support of a massive bailout plan for banks in his first month as a president / banker puppet. Total butthole that he is. He appointed Geithner, William Daley, William Donaldson, Robert Rubin, Roger Ferguson, Paul Volcker to his economic advisory board. At that time, it was concluded that banking cronyism would expand and go unprosecuted by the president. Okay. As a result of the lack of prosecution of criminal banking behavior, the first signs of hyperinflation have arrived. The real national debt is $220 trillion, and this includes all unfunded, off-balance liabilities such as Medicare and Social Security. So it's not 16 or 17 trillion. It's actually 220 trillion. Furthermore, this figure of the true national debt does not even feel obscene in relative terms once you consider that the Greenspan, Robert Rubin, Bill Clinton administration let the global derivative market run unregulated in the name of multi-billion-dollar short-term profits to bankers and irresponsibly explode into the unresolvable, Christ, what is this, is that even trillion? Christ, just an incredible number of unresolved market that exists today with derivatives. Let it be known that Brooksley Born repeatedly lobbied for strict regulations of the global banking derivatives market. Let's see here. And warned Summers and Greenspan that letting bankers exploit derivatives for profit at the expense of sound banking principles would create the very crisis we are suffering today. What was Bourne's reward for such the wise prediction? A cussing out and screaming fest courtesy of Larry Summers. You know, he's just a pig who stands upright. That's what Larry Summers is. From Bourne's own testimony and forced resignation by Summers and Greenspan. Yet the same Larry Summers that President Obama has adamantly defended and is Obama's first choice to supplant Bernanke as the next chair of the Rothschild's private bank, aka Federal Reserve. Neither the government lies about the unchanging nature of the official national debt for over 90 consecutive days now, nor the government lies about the true scope of the national debt is stunning. What is stunning, however, is just how gigantic is the U.S. national debt when you start putting the figures in relatable terms. No one really understands how incredibly large is the sum of 1 billion, let alone a trillion or a couple hundred trillion. So it helps to illustrate the absurdity of this unresolvable debt by painting the debt in a different light. All right. Another incredible article from Zero Hedge. That's wrong. I did the wrong thing there. Let me reload this page. That's bad. Anyway, first, just type in first signs of hyperinflation have arrived. Let's see here. So yeah, it just continues what we see on a daily basis. We see just absolute insanity, and there's a reason for it. because it's order out of chaos. And the people that created the chaos get to create the resolution for the chaos. And that's more control. It's that simple. So, it's all one of those things that if you're not paying attention, Hey, Jordan DeYoung here on Cold Reality Radio, energy medicine technician. And we're going to talk about a few different things. How'd you feel about this 12th anniversary of 9/11 and a lot of excuse me, a lot of positive information coming out as people, as we go further down the road, people are becoming more and more aware that the official story of 9/11 is just a heap of lying garbage.
Well, it shows how effective the brainwashing is, because you could say pink-haired, stripper worshipping Muslims, extremists, and they don't get it.
Yep.
Like, these Christians that hate the Muslims, like, that's how much they understand about Muslims, is they think, oh, they can do that because they're Muslims. It's like, well, if you look at it, a lot more people saying they're Christian are doing that than Muslims.
Right. Right. So what we see here is we have a group of people that is being demonized because they have to create an enemy. So that's where the whole Muslim extremism and all this other stuff comes in. And so they have to make an enemy of these people. So you get these people in America who hear Muslim and then right away they think those bastards.
Yeah, you said something about if the U.S. falls, the world falls. But I think as the world sees it, if the U.S. falls, they're kind of liberated.
That's true too. In a certain sense, I think financially of the world, if America falls, then it's going to have an effect across the board. But yeah, you're right. They will, because of what's being done to us and what's being done in our name. We are being held out. We're just being dangled out there for people to hate us. And I hopefully that there's people in Europe and in Asia that realize that we are not our government, but then it's just like anything else. Like if, somebody says, you see some kid, or these kids acting out and their parents are there, you look at them, you look at the parents and you say, come on, man, control your kids, but we can't really do that to our government. And, there's just a whole lot of stupid people out there that have no clue. And I think the generation, the 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids that are growing up now are being deluged with lies about global warming. They're learning about, much like, I learned about World War II and different things like that because I wasn't alive at the time. You know how powerful it is for them to not have lived through any of it, but, they get told about the attacks or whatever. So it's all weird.
at least today we get the chance or opportunity to see, what's really going on and from all sides with the internet. But they grew up with just getting fed information from the TV and the mainstream media.
Yep. Yep. So they're just, they're an open slate to just be, written on, and controlled. They're an empty memory chip that is just being fed, more lies and more garbage.
They're like an open wound in the hospital accumulating, MRSA.
Exactly. And so it's not going to be good for them. And of course, if you got the parents that that love to, and you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with a parent wanting to keep their child safe, but that's what they use against you. They use your fear of your child getting some kind of disease to make sure that you get them in and get them vaccinated. You know, even real subtle thing the other night, it was, I'm watching this, insurance commercial and Norm Macdonald is on there and he's selling this one particular, type of insurance. And then there's this guy, he goes, this is what happens if you don't, if you don't have a car, if you can't pay car insurance and you got to ride the bus. And then this guy walks over, sits on the couch and he's all like overweight and sick and he's coughing. And then McDonald does this thing where he has like a recording where he goes, note to self, make sure your vaccinations are up to date. Just little things like that, little subtleties like that. Like I'm sure he doesn't think of things in that sense, but even when you're not thinking about it, like he may not even go and get vaccines, but he says that.
Norm Macdonald needs money so bad you can't trust anything that guy does.
I thought his show was pretty funny. I think he was on Comedy Central and he did some kind of sports show. I thought that was a riot.
Oh, recently?
Probably about a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. My brother told me about it.
Still, his work is sparse,
Yeah. Yeah, he was on, he did his SNL thing and then he needs money bad.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, he's not really Norm Macdonald and then he's this politician and he's playing dual roles, which every time I get involved in that and I start thinking about that, it kind of throws me off, I wonder whether we are being duped by, these people are playing dual roles in society.
Right. They could just as easily be holograms as playing dual roles, which easier. It would be easier for them to be holograms than to be playing dual roles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or clones. One of the two, but the dual role thing, it just, you got so many hours in a day.
Absolutely. Oh. Yeah. So it's, so I guess it's no surprise that that our information's being sold to Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And are we part of Israel now?
Yeah, I definitely say so. I kind of thought, with Alan Watt tying everything into the CIA and the FBI all being England and MI6, we're all interconnected in some kind of monster.
Yeah.
And Interpol could arrest me, for example, right, with no oversight from any local authorities.
Don't give them any ammo.
Right. or give them all the ammo, depending on how you want to look at it.
Right. It's just, wow. We given our information, all of our information over to, a foreign country that, has been, known, to, we were attacked. What was it? The USS Liberty was attacked by Israel. And that was a big cover up. And I believe John McCain was involved in the cover up of that. You got Feinstein, openly calling for the end of what we're doing right now.
Yeah, couldn't they be in the Illuminati right now, which could maybe just be like a dinner party where they just decide shit, decide what to do?
Well, the thing here is that they've all taken, if I was to get, or both of us, we were to get into Congress or Senate or something like that, somewhere along the line, somebody's going to try to offer us money or try to give us something that is going to steer us in a particular direction.
I like money, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Who doesn't want or want the satisfaction of knowing that they've got a decent amount of money in the bank? Now, let me tell you something. If I had a decent amount of money in the bank, after today's show, I would go out to a music store and I would buy myself like easy, like, $5,000, like a $3,000 to $5,000 guitar. Or I would buy two guitars, for like, roughly like $2,500. I'd probably buy like a Paul Reed Smith. And then I'd probably buy like, an Ibanez gem. And I would love to have the freedom to be able to do that. Unfortunately, that's not the case.
Right.
And I don't have a Les Paul that I can pick up and pretend that I'm Slash from Guns N' Roses. I can't do that.
Right.
But, I've got enough here to keep me satisfied. But, these people take money, they get, in deep, and then, they become complicit in the crimes. And then is it that they know that they're going to do criminal things from the very beginning? Or is it something that they just get in there? I mean, did John McCain come in and think, I'm going to save America? And then, he just got involved in too deep, or maybe he's got a brain chip, or maybe he has no idea what's going on. But
I don't know if you can assume they have totally normal lives. I mean, they've got to keep some high level of connection. And I thought Ben Bernanke, he's a furniture salesman in Pennsylvania, graduated high school from there, but he must have had connections his whole life. Like, his bar mitzvah must have been filled with some amazing characters.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at Netanyahu, who graduated from a school not too far, a high school not too far from here. In a place where I pretty much visited quite a bit because my aunt lived in a place called Cheltenham, PA, which is like right on the outskirts of Philadelphia. And he graduated from, this Cheltenham High, or one of these schools up there. How's this guy go from there to being like the one of the leaders, or the leader of Israel?
Maybe they chipped him so they can control him.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's wild though.
Yeah, like
Obama I can see, because Obama was clearly groomed his whole life, which he might have been Zoolandered his whole life. He's got more missing years than Jesus.
Very well put. He does. Jesus went from like 12 to 32 or something. There was like, how many missing years there?
18.
Something
like that.
He was partying, man. He was partying. He was like, snorting friggin', Middle Eastern blow or something. I don't know, but bottom line here is that it just, all the stories, everything. I hope that my coverage this morning of the 12th anniversary of 9/11 was good.
Yeah, it was excellent.
I like to try to do. I don't think in all the time. I guess I kind of started in November of 2011 on Blog Talk, and then I spent probably I think it was July of 2012 is when I got into Oracle. So it's been like two years now that I've had an opportunity to do something 9/11, and I thought that, hey, let me do something substantial here. And I think that James Corbett clip really just kind of should trigger enough information in the mind of anyone listening to it to say, yeah, that's pretty bizarre. That I mean, what the heck was it when I read? That 19 hijackers who were, or here it is, what is it? 19 men with box cutters, directed by a man on dialysis in a cave thousands of miles away with a satellite phone and a laptop, directed the most sophisticated penetration of the most heavily defended airspace in the world. Right then and there, you have to say to yourself, something's not right about that.
Oh, I mean, I've talked to people about 9/11 before, and one guy, I said, you remember the dancing Israelis? He said, yeah, they were dancing Palestinians. And, what would a Palestinian have to gain from that?
We're the big devil, right? Like that clip that I played last week, we're the big devil, and Israel is the little devil or something.
Yeah. Oh, great Satan, big Satan and little Satan, I think.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's just pulling us into his trap of death. Was it the dancing Israelis? Let me see. Dancing.
Yeah, and some Mossad agents were arrested that day too.
Yeah.
By a state trooper with there was just some like APB out for this van.
Mm-hmm. Here's a YouTube clip on it. Well, it's probably going to, I don't know, they're going to say, did Jews know in advance what the Twin Towers would be hit? I don't know. This is
yeah, look at The Simpsons. They knew.
Did they? What, didn't they have something in there?
Yeah, they had like, I don't know, it was like there was a 9/11 implied, and I don't know if it was like Simpsons #2, and there was like a 9 cents right next to it, or who knows?
Oh yeah, go on YouTube. There's any number of different where it says 9/11 Illuminati. Yeah, like 9/11 Illuminati in movies and TV shows or something.
Yeah, I would say 9/11 synchronicities, forecast shadows. I don't.
Yeah. The dancing Israeli FBI report debunked. Take our world back. Yeah, we know who controls that website. And of course, 9/11 myths. There's all kinds of disinformation out there.
Well, I mean, it could be New York too, and people are just on drugs dancing. You know.
That's right.
Yeah, to say you can't dance right now. Someone wanted to dance right there.
Yes, look at this. It says on Google search, it says dancing Israelis myth. Dancing Israelis on Snopes. I don't know if you ever gone to the Snopes website, but even they say, oh, there's nothing wrong with diet soda. Dancing Israelis 9/11 debunked. Dancing Israelis debunked. 5 dancing Israelis debunked. Dancing Israelis on 9/11. Just unreal amount of because it's such a heavy piece of information that once people like lock on it, then they're like, hey, that's uncool. Why were you dancing?
Yeah. two planes, 3 buildings, you know, whatever.
And some jackasses would be like, look at that. Yeah. No, it's awful. You know, they're dancing to our you know, these attacks. And somebody would be like, no, they're just bad dancers.
Well, you know, at that point, how many countries had we invaded where, you know, we have some immigrants in New York that would be happy if we got hit, you know, where they talk about we've been creating enemies.
Yeah.
So.
Well, no, you know, pretty much Bush and Obama and Schumer and Feinstein and McCain, these people are creating enemies that will. Hopefully at one point, you know, we won't have like a Red Dawn scenario, you know, because, you know, once they sell America out from underneath us, you know, what's going to be left? They're going to be like, hey, we just came in and, you know, we were just trying to set up what's ours. You know, your country, your government sold us Colorado, you know.
I can see us getting taken over with this bacteria, too. I've been reading another Lyme book, so that gets me into doomsday via bacteria.
Mm-hmm.
The guy kind of discredited himself early in the book. It's called Healing Lyme by Stephen Berner. He talks about global warming. This is a very, very recent book. That's why the Lyme is spreading. But, like, the polar ice cap, have you seen pictures from last year to this year?
Oh yeah, it's actually expanded and there's been more ice accumulating up there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The wall to the north is expanding. Germany, the Lyme thing's all over the world. So there's no rhyme or reason to this. Tom Bearden thought that Kashnish, who are some of the bad, Yeltsin, I think, when he talk about destroying the West, it was through bacteria, because that would be the cheapest way. And I mean, this stuff disseminates itself, and you know it's very economical.
Mm-hmm. There's
but it's a really good book as far as, you know, what herbs for specific types of Lyme. There's different herbs for like. I think Chinese knotweed was for neurological Lyme, cat's claws for arthritic Lyme, as it says in here.
Uh-huh.
it's just a wonderful resource, because unless you're really wealthy and you get Lyme or something, or, you know, a lasting staph infection, you're out. Until you can deal with it, you're out of work. You know, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
So the herbs, you know, that this guy is recommending, you know, are not coming from any specific company. He takes a look at the different studies, and it seems like a really good guide to helping people out. And I've seen some of these things work clinically.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So yeah, what's the name of the book?
It's called Healing Lyme.
Okay.
By Stephen Herod Berner. Forward by Wendy Leffel, MD. So, well, he also thinks it's the natural creation, which I totally disagree with. But, you know, that argument's moot if the information on how to get over specific types of Lyme infections with specific herbs, if that information's helpful, it doesn't matter if they're, you know, not catering to the conspiratard like me.
Can you put your information out there so that people that hear the show can know how to contact you, ask you questions? Because, you know, as you said, Lyme is more of an epidemic than they're actually talking about, because they don't want to give it too much information. They don't want to give it too much light, because it would expose how big and wide it is.
Here's the scary thing about it. It's a biofilm-based disease, so it grows out of these biofilm packets that form in our body. And so does Pseudomonas, for sure, and I think MRSA does as well. MRSA at least forms colonies, know that. But I don't know if it's biofilm.
What is Pseudomonas?
It accounts for 28% of hospital infections in Europe. It's another bacterial infection that is drug resistant too, which was why they're studying the jeepers out of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So yeah, 28% of hospital room infections. It's something you're going to want to find out about.
Yeah.
These biofilm things, which are seemingly destroyed by only chelation, which is your EDTA, your favorite that you talk about all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I do those Cal EDTA injections, because I'm at a clinic that does those.
Okay.
Yeah, so people have been chelating for years that have had arthritis and these other issues, which are known Lyme problems that go misdiagnosed in some cases. So they were dealing with their biofilms, which is the root of their infection, the metals, you know. That toxicity is the root that the bacteria can grow on, and it seems to be literally true. There's probably something going on with the chemtrails too, you know, to get these metals into you, so you know their weaponized bacteria can form faster.
Yeah.
Lyme's incredibly interesting because it morphs so much. I think one of the first things that it does is it sheds iron and replaces it with molybdenum and avoids detection by your immune system. It'll shed its cell wall pretty fast too, which will make it bacteria or antibiotic resistant. And then it hides in cyst form, so it gets this super hard protein shield around it that can't be touched by anything.
Yeah, that's what they say about HIV, that it has some kind of protein coating on it.
Yeah.
And that makes it, you know, that as the immune system is going around looking for, you know, doing its job or trying to do its job, it will see, it won't see these, you know, it's like an invisible cloak.
I'd say the most common viral co-infection of Lyme is probably Epstein-Barr.
Mm-hmm.
Or that's the mono, and that's, you know, what's going to really fatigue you horribly.
Right. So you've been, and before the end of the show, make sure you get your information out there about your YouTube site, Twitter, or anything like that, so people can.
Well, Twitter's probably the easiest. It's just Rife, R-I-F-E, as in the number, Lyme, Lyme. So Rife, the number 4, Lyme, at Twitter.
Okay.
And YouTube's Ondamed Jedi. That's ONDAMEDJEDI.
Yeah. And a lot of great videos on there of Jordan, explaining the work that he's doing, the work that he's done over a number of years with in this field, in this energy medicine field. And of course, he will, he'll take the archive from Cold Reality Radio and put it up there so you can watch and listen to full episodes of the show. And there's all kinds of clips up there from conversations that we've had, he and I and Jimmy Hallman. So check it out, Ondamed Jedi at the YouTube database.
Yeah.
So are you dealing with anybody like right now? Do you have any I'm sure you've got people that you're treating. Is there anybody in particular? Is anything that has, piqued your interest? Anything that's out of the norm that has happened with any particular individuals?
It's first of all, everyone self-treats. That's, an FDA, friendly thing.
Okay.
But when they've self-treated themselves for knees, it seems to be, extremely effective with Jimmy's PFG2Z. The whole thing with the energy medicine is if you can get a wave to have a drug-like effect, that waveform is going to be much cheaper than going to a doctor's office and going to the pharmacy, and paying for all of these things when you could just run the signal. And this can work with some things, not everything, of course. Like electrolytes are going to be, extremely valuable, and some supplements are still extremely valuable, but others will be made, optional, like the herbs. I don't know if they work better than the frequencies, but the initial investment's a lot less with that.
Right.
But in the long run, people with families, because there's usually reinfections because the organs have already been exposed to the bacteria, and I mean, it almost makes things worse, I think. And there's just a likelihood people are going to get it again because of how many ticks are out there. They kill off mosquitoes, and people wage war on wasps and ants, which would eat the larvae of the tick.
So is that what the spraying of the mosquitoes is a lot?
So if you spray the mosquitoes and you kill all the mosquitoes, then they don't consume the tick eggs that would grow into these ticks that have tons of bacteria that give people Lyme.
But wouldn't if the mosquitoes were to eat the infected eggs, like you said?
Yeah.
Wouldn't they in fact be carriers themselves, or it doesn't work the same way?
I don't think it works the same way, because the ticks really attach for a long time. And there's something with their pH, too. The pH in the ticks goes from something over 9.5 to 7.4, and then the spirochetes leave. So if that physiology is different in the mosquito, which I would believe it is, it wouldn't happen the same way. So it is a competing species thing, and they seem to be waging war on these H5N1s that I've never seen anyone put in a wheelchair from, something they got from a mosquito, but from a tick I have plenty of times.
Yep. Yep. Well, you got the Centers for Disease Control, another compromised organization.
Yeah, if people want to, see if this is a conspiracy or not, just go search NAMRU3, NAMRU, and the number 3, and then Navy, and it is a government website, so they'll tell you they're working with the WHO and international organizations.
Second and goal now. God, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What was it? NAM3?
NAMRU, NAMRU 3, and they do vaccine research, which,
right.
So if they're listening to this show, you can put pieces together, but I can show that to people and they'll be like, oh, the Navy is over there doing vaccine research. That's great. They're going to help me.
Right.
Because they're the Navy and they don't, kill people and they're not a branch of the military or anything.
Well, I think Department of Homeland Security is a branch of the military now, right? That's what I've
possibly.
That's what I've heard. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I gotta do something. I definitely want to do a program this week on Spreaker. I just have to figure out when it is, and I'll let you know. It might be like tomorrow night or Tuesday night, but I just have to find a 2-hour window there where we can kind of pull in the listeners from UCY to get the information there when we're doing like not a rebroad, but maybe Mae Brussel or Bill Cooper or something like that, so we can get information out there, talking about health and health related, like I said, over the last 2 weeks, and then the weeks come and go, and then there's always something happening or something that deviates me from what I want to do.
Yeah, I get a lot of books to read from patients, and this is definitely the best one that's been handed to me in 3-4 years.
Healing Lyme, it was?
Yeah, Healing Lyme. It's a good resource. If you can use these things as a resource and have something that's quick and concise, that's not an 800-page book, because you don't need to write 800 pages on just herbs dealing with Lyme. And it's very comprehensive. He talks about not just killing Lyme, but rebuilding collagen, and getting your cells healthy again. I don't know how much.
What's the importance I'll tell you what I know about collagen is that if someone develops, it becomes acidic and their immune system takes a hit, they develop a cancer. These, the cancer, the tumors, they have in order for them to metastasize and get into other areas of the body, they have these collagen dissolving enzymes that get, from the tumor through because the body encapsulates the tumor to protect the rest of the body from that malignant cell. And of course, what do they do when they go in there? What do they do? A biopsy? They go in and they pull.
Yeah,
they rip out a piece of it. Well, that just spreads the cancer.
Right, and so does chemo. That's been proven.
And so, building up collagen and having a decent amount of collagen, which vitamin C will do, I believe, proline, L-lysine, and L-proline will build up collagen in the body, and it will protect you against.
Lysine is amazing against herpes. I know someone who's used it for herpes for 40 years, and it always does the trick for her.
Right, for just simplex or herpes?
Simplex. But yeah, there's one thing you missed is Go-To Cola, and I didn't know about proline. So thanks for that.
Yeah,
but Go-To Cola is the only herb that you can take that's collagen forming. But a lot of the collagen stuff that they give you is from beef and cattle, and I just think that there's a risk of mad cow in that.
Right. Yeah, with animals, a source of food. I kind of agree, but I don't agree. Like if I didn't have to eat meat anymore, could I do it? I suppose I could. But a lot of our, as I said, with the GMO being one of the attacks, and then of course you've got the animals being poisoned, and God only knows what the chemtrailing or whatever they're eating off the ground, whatever.
Yeah, what's interesting is I hunt deer all the time, and in Ohio they won't touch the corn. They'll walk through, hundreds of acres of corn, which is all over the place down there, and they're notorious for being bad tasting deer because all they eat is acorns. But I just say that because Ohio's endemic with Lyme carrying ticks as well, I believe.
Right.
From I got Lyme one time in 2010 from there.
Right.
But if those fats or something in the acorn could possibly, be excellent for people.
Right.
But I just don't know anything about it.
Yeah, but it's like you said, like animals will, like if an animal won't eat anything.
They know it's poison. Like they'll probably know their species would die out if they want to eat, a good diet because they've got this crazy bacteria and these ticks that are everywhere down there.
Yep.
And they never get a frost, which kills the ticks. And so this year was pretty incredible for the number of ticks that were around, the number of Lyme warnings, but people will just find out they get Lyme if it settles in them real hard a year after when arthritis or super chronic fatigue shows up. And they usually go to 12 different doctors and they don't know what's going on. But then the Lyme treatments in general are not what they should be either, I don't think.
Yep.
So even if after you find out what you have, it's just like, okay, that's great.
Yeah.
I don't feel any better. I spent $50,000, which is not uncommon. So that's where this herb book or, our archived talks on the energy medicine can really help people out, because I don't have $50,000 to spend on this stuff, and I'm sure a lot of other people don't as well.
Yeah. All right. So we are coming down to the end of the program today. We're gonna, as I said, we're gonna do more health-related programs over at Spreaker. We've got a Spreaker account over there, so we're gonna do some of that. We're gonna knock out some important information on that as soon as I get my stuff together. And it's been another Sunday. We're halfway through September here, and the holidays are on the horizon. Right? We got the year went pretty fast. The time's just flying through, and I just find myself saying, what's tomorrow going to bring? What obvious news report's going to come up that's just going to, solidify the economy being, propped up and eventually, what's that going to look like? What's going to happen? When's going to happen? They really seem to want to push for this conflict over, in Syria and the Middle East. Because it's going to, they need something. I think in order for them to collapse the economy, they need to have a major conflict going on, at the same time, or they need some kind of conflict. Like I said, some of these Iranian proxies in Iraq are saying that if the U.S. does strike, or, they're going to attack the Saudi oil fields. So right there, all it would take is for our oil to go to, our gas to go from like in between $3 and $4 now, and sometimes higher in certain states, to, $8, $9, $10 a gallon for gas.
Yeah.
That'd do it, right?
No, I don't think so. People say that stuff, is going to happen, but gas already went from $1, to $5 and $4. So, like, the thing that I was thinking is, okay, everyone's got this line that they might drive 12 hours to a doctor's office. Mm-hmm. If they could use a machine and do this thing at home and link up with me and do the Zyto remotely, that'd be a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that there's all these people that are ill that already can't even drive in to get any kind of doctor remedy. So they have to go to health food stores and rely on the knowledge and expertise of someone who gets paid $7 an hour.
Yeah. All right, we're running out of time here. Cole Reality Radio. Thanks to Jordan DeYoung, and thanks to you in the chat room, everybody. Thanks for joining me, Shaliak, today on Cole Reality Radio on the UCY.TV broadcasting network. Join us next Sunday. We'll have more craziness and More information.
Mark 220 rounds a minute, try to stop them. Don't put that on your wish list, that's retarded babble. Protesters make the hit list soon as they start to rabble. They are nothing but fishes in the barrel. It doesn't have to be Christmas for a carol. Some decorate with ornamental decorum. Some perform Shakana on Hanukkah and Purim. That's where my job come in. I am a blessing to the mercenary for the corporation.